Okay, so we're going to start now looking at the revision. The topics are as follows. For lesson 1, we started with music notes and values, and then we went on to music rests and values, and then we talked about tied and single notes. Then we had simple time signature. Then we had what after that? What do we have? After single time signature, what did we do? Huh? You said what? Grouping of notes. Yes. After grouping of notes, what next? After grouping of notes, we did staves and clefs. Then we did accidentals, construction of major scales, C, D, am I right? B flat. No, C, F, G, D, and B flat. Then we did tonic tryouts for all those major keys that I've just listed. Did degree names, and then we ended with musical terms and values. So like I said, I'm not reteaching everything. It's just way of revision. So each of those topics, I will pick them, and then if you have questions, you would ask me. I'll just make one or two comments and then tell you where you need to. So what we're going to do is we'll look at each of the lessons, each of the topics, make some comments, and we'll refer back to the questions from the sample paper and see where those kind of questions crop up that deals with those topics. And then you are not to mark anything or write anything now, but basically it's just for you to know how to handle such kind of questions when they come up and to see how you fare, whether you did well or not. Okay, so the first topic we looked at was musical notes and values. Am I right? Music notes and values. Music notes and their values. Okay? Can somebody remind me again, what are the music notes and values that we have in music? We have the music. So you tell me the notes, you tell me their values. All right? So what do we have? Start from the biggest to the smallest. Semi-breve. Semi-breve. And that's what's the value? Semi-breve, all right? What's the shape? You remember? Like this. Okay? And what's the value? So let's do it this way. So that we are consistent, and let's do this way so that we are for consistency. So let's say you have, so let's say notes, shape, value. Okay. All right. So you said semi-breve, good. Like this. So once you see something like this, it's semi-breve. What's the value? You said 4. 4 beats. All right. What follows after that? Minim, good. You should know how to draw this. Then what's the shape of that? This or this, am I right? Okay. What's this? 2. Then 3 is, we have what? Crochet. And that's the standard bit. So you know it already. Just shade this or shade this. And that's what? 1. Then you have what next? Quiver. Please know these things. By now you should know. These are standard things you should have known by now. All right. And that is what? Half. Then after that we have what? Semiquaver. Semiquavers has two hooks, and then that's what? 1/4. Okay? So these are things that I think already you know. This is all. So you should know how these things connect, all right? Because sometimes they may ask you, how many this makes up this? Once you are in the exam, you have your paper. You can do. You show them a blank paper. They will check all your. There's a way they will check everywhere to be sure you don't have any expo. But they allow you to have a blank paper, so that you can use to write out all these things. So that if they ask you, for example, how many crochet makes a semi-brief, you are able to say, okay, this and this. You just add two, or multiply by two to get to where you are going to. Do you get what I mean? So, for example, let me ask us, by way of revision, if they ask you how many quavers are in a semi-brief, what's the answer? Do we agree with that? Very simple. Once you have this table, this is a quiver, am I right? And we are going to semi-brief. So just say 2 times 2 times 2. That's it. 8. Because they multiply themselves by 2 as you go up. So, how many semi-quiver makes a minim? 8. So, you know that already. Okay, so that's something you may want. As I'm saying, I'm not writing anything. If there are other things that I have not said, you could just scribble down. So now you know how to find out how many notes make a larger note. When we get to musical rest, it's the same thing. So I will not waste time in musical rest. You understand? It's the same thing. If they ask you how many rests make this, you just put the whole thing there and you multiply by 2 because they divide themselves by 2 or they build up by multiplication of 2. Now you would see also that starting from minim, of course, understand that there are other notes apart from these 5 notes, but for grade 1, these are the ones they will examine you on. But starting from minim, you would see that we have 2 shapes of these notes. One with a stem going up, the other one with a stem going down. It's not for fun. It's important to know when to use each of these. All right? For the exam you are doing, practically, just know it. I don't know. You may not, because you are not writing physically, so it's a computer. They may just ask you this or that. So, but when we get to construction of scales, you will find out when you need to use the stem going down and when you need to use the stem going up. Okay? So, but just note that. Any question about this before we go to the next topic? Any question? No, I said when we get to the construction of major scale, we'll talk about that. But just have that at the back of your mind that, there are situations where you need to use steps going down and where you need to use steps going up. From minim, of course, for semi-brief, nothing like that because it's just one standard note. But from minim down to semi-quiver, there are 2 formats you could use, and it depends on where the note is sitting on the stave to know which to use. Any question? Okay. Any question, please? All right, but as we progress, if you think of any question, you could always call me back. Now, if we go back to that exam paper, let's see whether we have something similar that is there. Let's see. If we go back to the exam paper, so let's see. So you could see question 1.3. Do you see that? Do you see question 1.3? And do you see that's A and B? That's it. That's the kind of question. So they are just expected to tick which one is the correct one. All right. But let's leave that for now because I've not taught you dotted notes. We've not done that because the first one is a dotted note. But at least the question B, with this, you should know what the answer is. Is that okay? That's they said how many crochets are there in a semi-brief. All right. Don't tell me the answer. Just you've written it down already. I'll look at it. We'll mark everything, whether you got it or not. Okay. So, let's see. Is there any other one again? Now, look at question. Look at question 1.6. Look at question 1.6 because they may change these questions, but it's still going to be like this. You know, it's not going to be different. So if you know the principle is, so look at question 1.6. They says, what does it say?
One box which shows the four notes written in order from the shortest value to the longest.
So if you know this, you know which one is the shortest value. The following, you just look for the one that is arranged in what you call ascending order. So you see where notes, music notes, and value. The questions, type of questions they pick from music notes and values. All right. So let's see if there are other ones again. Okay. I think that is all from this question paper. All right. So let's progress.
1.3 as
well. 1.3. What's in 1.3? Let's see. We've talked about that. Yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah. All right. Thank you. So now let's go to music rests. Music rests and values. So if we go to music rests now, so I'm not going to clean this because I'm still going to use this because it's the same values. It's just these things that are going to change. So if you put rest here, just put rest. Okay. So each of these notes, they have their rests. Of course, you know what a note means. It tells you how long you should hold a sound. Rest is how long you should keep silent or pause or rest. Okay. Now, how you draw each of these rests for the musical notes, they can be anywhere on the stave. All right, you can put them anywhere depending on where the music. But rests have a particular place they must be on the stave. They have a particular position. Each rest has a particular position where they must be on the stage. On the stave. Sometimes they will give you different rests. They will say put them on the stave. So you have to drag, and put it on the right place with your mouse. Okay? So if you don't know where it ought to be and you go and put it in the wrong place, it means you've missed it. So for rest, you have to be more careful to understand where exactly on the stave it has to be positioned. Do we understand? All right. So let's go from the semi-brief now. So semi-brief rests. Let's just put these two separating lines to put the rest here. Semi-brief. So if you want to do rest, normally I will prefer that. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so semi-brief rest. What's a semi-brief? Who knows what how is a semi-brief rest? A square or a rectangle? Yes, not a square, rectangle. Hanging from the top, which of the lines is it? Because if you count, the stave is 5 lines. Am I right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Am I right? So what line is it hanging from? From the 4th line. Note that. So you have the 5th line here, the 4th line here, like this. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Is this a semi-brief rest? Is it hanging or is it sitting? Sometimes people confuse Sometimes people confuse semi-brief rest with minim rest because they are the same shape. It's just that one is hanging, the other one is sitting. So which one is hanging and which one is sitting? Eh?
Semi-break rice is hangs on the fourth line,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the meaning sits on the third.
Is that correct? Correct. So it means that, so sometimes the exam, they'll just give you something, they'll say semi-brief because they know it's confusing. You have to know that they are the same. One is hanging, one is sitting. All right? So that's the middle line. All right? Now for the crochet, it's a bit tricky. You know, I'll just do it and then it just has to cut across. The crochet actually doesn't have a specific, you can put it anywhere, but it should be on the stave. You know, there is no, it should be on this line or on that space or no. You can put it anywhere, but it should be on the stave. Sometimes it's just, you know, the way it's so that's for the crochet. Now for the quiver also basically can be anywhere. All right? Can be anywhere. The only thing is that the quiver rest is simple to identify because it's similar to the quiver note. The only thing is that the head is now turning the other way and it's a square head, not a round head again. You know what I mean? So this head is, so what you have here will be this. All right? So like a flag. But you see, this one is turning here, but this one is turning here. So it's only one head because it's one tail. For semi-quiver, since it is two tails, you have two heads. So note that. And they are the same values of rest. So they can ask you, in place of those, how many quiver notes, they can ask how many quiver rest makes this rest. It's the same principle. Okay, let's not be confused. It's the same principle. Let's see if can you check if there's any question that relates to that, please? What is in 1.5? Okay, that's the crochet. So this one, they didn't say whether it's crochet note or crochet thread. It's just a crochet, you know. So it could be. So that's to tell you that it doesn't matter whether it is a rest or a note. It's the same value. It's the same value. So I don't think they have any specific. Let's see. Okay. Well, there are questions there, but if you look at question 1.5. For example, it tells you to know whether the rest are correct, but you can't do this now until we've done time signature. So we're going to do, when we do time signature, we'll come back to this and we'll see. But for this kind of question, please, whether it is music rest or music notes, let's note that one question they can ask is how many this makes up this, or group this in the ascending order, from small to big, large value, or in descending order from large to smaller value. You have to read the questions critically very well and ensure that you understand what you've been asked to do. Any questions so far? All right, so now let's go to tied and single notes. Let me rub off this. Tied and single note. That's topic 3 now. Tied and single note. It's just very straightforward. I will not waste much time on that, on tied and single note. So tied and single note, yeah. All right. So let's go to tied and single notes. So tied notes, you see, you can put music notes to stand alone. Semi-brief, meaning they just stand alone and it tells you that's the value. Or you can marry them together. You can do what? You can marry two notes together. And those two notes, when you marry them together, you add their values together. That means you tie them together. So there are two ways to do that. There is what you call a tie and a slaw. I'm not repeating all this. You should know the difference between a tie and a slaw. So what's the difference between a tie and a slaw?
They tie two notes that are of the same pitch together.
On the same
Whereas,
pitch. Yeah.
Whereas slows, it's just the opposite. It ties the two notes that are of different pitches.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So they are not on the same lines or space. So when you see, so for example, if you have this and this, okay, this is 2 bits, all right, and this is 2 bits. If you were to count this, you have to count 1, 2, and then you count 1, 2 separately. But once you connect a tie, once you tie these notes together, and you should know where you should put the ties. The ties can be up or it can be under. You understand? So once you put the tie, what happens? The 2 plus 2 becomes 4. So instead of counting 1, 2 separately, 1, 2 separately, you count 1, 2, 3, 4. So the value of these notes now becomes what? 4, which is a semi-brief. So it's like it's like simple mathematics. Music is mathematics. When you do 2 plus 2 is 4, then what note has the value of 4 is a semi-brief. Do we understand? So that is it. So whether this is on the same line as a tie, or whether it's on a different line or space as a slaw, it increases the value of the note. Okay? It increases the value of the note. All right. Any question about that? That's very straightforward. Let's see. Do we have any question? Can you check if we have questions on that, please? Okay. No question. Mostly, sometimes they will just tie 2 notes. They'll tell you what's the value of the notes. So you have to find out. You have to know that once a note is tied, it's like they are tying them, marrying the 2 notes together. So you just kind of have to note that immediately that no, this is the value has been extended beyond the original note to include the other notes. All right. There is no question I can see from here. There are no questions I can see from here. Let's see. No. Okay, but just beware that is not here doesn't mean it can't come out. Like this is just a sample question. All right. Okay. It's what we call dotted notes. Dotted notes. And like you rightly know that dotted notes simply adds half the value of that note to it. So the dot actually is half of the value of the note it is dotting. In this case, you have dotted meaning, and it translates to what's the full value of this dotted meaning is the original meaning plus half the value of meaning. And half the value of meaning is what? A crochet. Yeah, so this is what you have here. So it's a note and it's half. Whatever note it is dotting is half of that note. So when you are doing completing your bars in your exams, please take note of those dots. They are part of the value of the time signature. All right? I just feel I should mention that.